little bit, but I'm bunged up again. Apparently I can't eat potatoes anymore.
Are we live, Justin?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start down a high note.
It's, now on the list.
I'll just wait for that to pop up. Oh, we are live. Cool. All right, welcome to YQL Express. I'm Devin Hargreaves. We will be joined by Derek St. Jean at about 6:30. And, of course, Pirate Jen Takahashi is back.
Thanks for having me again.
Oh.
It's been a while. I forget how the whole...
It's been a while since you've been on the show, not since
Yeah.
a while since we've seen each other.
That's been 48 hours, not even.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so we invited Jen back today to kind of wrap up our conversion therapy ban petition campaign. We had Jen on the show right when, actually Jen and I kicked the petition off, talked about that. We've had Maria Fitzpatrick on to talk a little bit about it when the provincial government said they were bringing in legislation last session. So with that said, for anyone just tuning in, do you want to give a quick run through of what conversion therapy is again?
So, and I gave a really, I think I should have come up with this description at the very beginning. Conversion therapy covers a spectrum of treatment. Oh, I love this because I can air quote.
I love it too.
People
You
can
can even
see
watch yourself
treatments. And so it starts with a very, very simple, comparatively pray away the gay, counsel away the gay, stepping up to exercise the gay, and when that doesn't work, then we're going to send you to counseling to counsel away the gay, and it goes all the way up.
Exercise isn't like an exorcism enough.
Yeah, like
exercise
your
usually.
demons. That was a fun fact we learned this fall, and I'm still wrapping my head around that. And then it goes all the way up to rape and torture. So at that point, you're looking at corrective rape, which does leave the patient, I suppose, to still be considered a virgin because it's being done in Jesus' eyes. It allows for women to be impregnated and forced into family situations. Historically, it's involved electroshock therapy and lobotomies.
We've got chemical castration.
Yeah, that was a new one on me. I'd forgotten about that one.
What was the subject of that one movie about the World War? You cracked the code.
Oh, yeah, that was a really, really good one. So it's a spectrum of treatments that, regardless of what the governing body defines it as, whether it's provincial legislation, the American College of Psychologists and Psychiatrists, all of these organizations, it is any attempt to force, coerce, or, abuse somebody into a hetero or cisgendered lifestyle. And it's flat-out abuse, no matter what end of the spectrum it's on. It's wrong.
Well, it comes out of that concept that we got over years ago, that being queer, and by queer we're using that as an umbrella term for LGBTQ+. That concept that it was a mental illness or a disease that needed to be cured.
Or shameful, or a violation of that you were going to go to hell is what it ends up being a lot of the time. And it's a horrible thing to have your family or your church or your community look at you and say, we're going to kick you out if you don't subject yourself to this abuse and torture. So we just want that to not happen anymore. It's pretty straightforward with that.
It's a simple ask.
Yeah.
It's not overcomplicated.
Yeah. Although, interestingly, it does turn into a very complicated from a legislative standpoint, because we are asking the federal government to change the criminal code. We're asking for the highest law in the land to be changed. And we didn't really get that until this week. And so that is where defining what constitutes conversion therapy does actually become an important part of the conversation, as well as there's a lot of pressure from certain parties, that freedoms be respected, and that we have asked for the ban to apply to minors specifically, because at the end of the day, even though it's not, we have adult friends who did seek conversion therapy treatment as adults because they were bullied and abused and threatened by their family and their churches. We don't have the right to tell an adult what they can and cannot do with themselves. And there are people who do choose to pursue conversion therapy or live basically celibate lives because their faith is more important than who they are as humans. And, it's the same thing as saying we wouldn't tell a nun to not be a nun or a priest, or, an asexual person doesn't have that right either. So there is that concession that we're not campaigning to ban it for adults. just the kids, just protecting the kids. I think I sent a few tweets that was like, it's time to stand up and protect queer kids in Canada. We're going to be leaders in human rights, globally. Then we need to walk the walk and not just talk the talk and use the queer community as pawns in elections.
And of course, once again, it is Facebook Live. This is our, as we said, well, possibly our last conversion therapy episode.
Until legislation.
Yeah, exactly. Then I'll come on your show.
Oh, there we go. Yep, that'll be a good day.
So for those of you tuning in, those of you in Alberta, our petition closes at 7:16 a.m. tomorrow. If you haven't signed it, get on that and do it now. On Just FM, I posted it earlier today. Go give that a sign. Let's look back on the beginning of this petition. You kind of started it. Why did you?
Provincially, yeah, we started through my organization. We had a young man back in 2015 during the provincial campaign, and when it became clear that we were going to have a new Democrat government, he said, well, New Democrats take government, we can ban this. Right? And it's, well, of course, we're New Democrats. Of course we'll ban it. And anyway, so then I forgot about it. We got busy, and then he brought it back to me and was like, where's my ban? So at that time, I'd gotten hired at Elperg, and the board had approved it, and then we coordinated with Ava Webworks, our web designer. She built a form online. You could go on, sign. It sends it out to a bunch of MLAs, the ministers, and, of course, the Premier of Alberta. And then we brought the slips to Tabor's First Pride Fest. And that's where it was like, all right, we might want to look at a federal. And then when it became very, very clear that a provincial ban was not going to be forthcoming, then the brains got to draft the petition.
Well, I think part of the reason too, like Jen and I worked so hard together on a provincial ban, and it got to the point where we looked at Manitoba's ban, we looked at Ontario's, and then was it Nova Scotia?
Nova Scotia later, Vancouver City, or the one who figured that one out.
Yeah.
And it was a huge help because I, especially in the provincial arena, less so in the federal, I'm super partisan, and you can come in and have conversations with David Kahn that have been very beneficial. He's been incredibly supportive, and you got into other areas with other politicians with that. And it carried a lot of weight in campaigning and then pushing the campaign federally.
But I think part of the reason too, just to explain to our viewers, the reason that we still value the provincial ban. Jen and I were talking about this less than 48 hours ago. That the provincial ban sends a message to the federal government that it's not welcome here. With that said, shout out and congratulations to New York.
I know, right? That was a beautiful thing to walk into.
They're banning it state by state down there. But federally, as Jen mentioned earlier, you can't just change the criminal code with a provincial ban, which is why we have to take it federal.
Even with a province by province, we still need that. And, so much of the conversation, too, is, we look back at gay marriage, legalized in Canada, a decade later, legalized in the United States. We look at the United Kingdom is working towards their own ban. Australia. There's a bunch of other countries that are starting to kick up and have these conversations or have been having these conversations. And if Canada, as human rights leaders globally, can ban this, it's not just our criminal code, our queer lives. Our country, it is affecting a massive global change. And I think that Canada should really make that a priority. If we can actually sit down as a nation, provincially and federally, and say, no, this is not acceptable. We don't treat queer people this way, and get these other nations on board. I mean, we're looking at a watershed moment in queer history.
Definitely. Even Randy Bosnold, an MP out of Edmonton, made a post about conversion therapy and how different aspects of that are reportable, that, like Jim mentioned, rape and torture, things like that, do already fall under areas of the criminal code. But you've gotten really good at kind of explaining part of the reason that's why we need this ban.
Yeah, and then that's even with certain aspects of it, it's still permissible. I can still have my kid packed up and sent down to the compound in Mexico to be subjected to conversion therapy. The talk, pray, and exercise away the gay is still legal. It's not, it is as damaging, if not more so, than physical abuse, and it's not regulated, it's not legislated, there's no reporting. And that post by Boyce-Nault gives me absolute faith that the government really is taking the time to look at the issue, figure out where that legislation can be written and how it can be written, because he had a point by point this is what's already in effect, and then it's taking the conversation. And so much of it is the media wanting to sensationalize. Everybody wants the most likes and the most shares, and the best way to do that is to feed off of the most tragic and horrible stories imaginable. And it ends up with this huge segment of conversion therapy being overlooked and ignored. And that's how it ends up not being legislated. If we're not talking about domestic violence issues or emotional abuse and psychological abuse, there's no legislation to protect people. And we've been watching Alberta come up with greater protections for domestic violence and some of these more insidious forms of abuse. But we need to see it on a national level, and we need to see it directly, queer-facing.
Definitely.
So I'm optimistic. I'm feeling good. I'm hopeful, but I'm always hopeful.
And do you have any updates on that one bill that conversion therapy was supposed to be a part of
No.
regulating counselors?
No updates on that. But I will admit, kind of my bad. I got really busy today because it's also YWCA Woman of Distinction nominations right now, so getting those organized. And I'm not going to lie, the cat was really cold. It needed some serious cuddling. That took about an hour.
We did a documentary shoot the other day, and Jen's cats made themselves quite at home.
Oh, yes, they were. There's going to be some kitties in that. Definitely some kitties. It was the bad one, planting herself right in the interviewer's lap. That was something, because she don't like anybody. So I haven't had a chance to call, and I kind of wanted to see, too, where we were at, because it's easy to say, okay, we're working on this documentary, and there's these conversations with these other organizations, and it looks like we're going to hit 18,000 signatures by tomorrow morning.
Well, we're asking for your help.
Yeah.
Go sign it. We have till 7:16 a.m.
Yep.
But that's part of the reason I brought that up, too,
Yeah.
is it's even minor things like that, enforcing that counselors have to be regulated, that are going to help in this fight against conversion therapy.
That was a big piece of legislation, and I think no matter what the New Democrats end up putting in legislation that way, that is actually going to be the most effective to some piece. Like
As far as the provincial.
Yep, in the provincial, because right now I can put a shingle on my front lawn, call myself a counselor, and you can pay me $100 an hour to, pray away the gay.
Oh, we should have done that as part of this campaign.
Oh, well, I'm also wondering, I don't often go into the comment section, but I had to on that Rebel Media story, right? There was a woman who attacked us on Twitter.
Laura Lynn, Tyler?
Something.
Thompson?
I
She
can't
was from the
recall
700 Club.
Yes, and she is running against Jagmeet Singh.
Well, prior to that, she ran as a school board candidate
yeah.
in Burnaby.
Yes.
And publicly attacked our petition.
It was great.
And then somehow attacking banning conversion therapy for minors does not make you homophobic.
No.
But
Bless BC's hired a bunch of candidates, then got together and wrote a letter saying you are a trash human being and we support this. So that was very exciting. And we saw those people who signed that letter get elected mayor of Vancouver, on and on. So it had a big impact. So she's running in Burnaby, and the Rebel Media wrote this smear campaign on the CBC and bringing up
Rebel Media trying to
identity.
smear CBC is like, that's satire.
But the comment section was a gold mine of hilarity. It is the one exception. You should have. I never read the comments, but definitely Rebel Media comments are worth reading. But it occurred to me with all of this, like, even if it's not directed at us by name, we're not identified, there's a lot of really angry white men about this conversion therapy ban and about how we're forcing the trans agenda down people's throats and we're destroying the Canadian way and whatever other hilariously bizarre things they put out on the internet. Well, where's their petition? Why didn't they draft a petition to keep conversion therapy legal, to expand conversion therapy?
Because that doesn't, even if you don't agree with people identifying as LGBT, you just can't argue that on a human rights basis.
But where's their petition?
It's
I want to know.
condemned by
Yep.
every major
Everybody.
psychological association, Canada, the States, and things like that. It's so hard to argue when gender expression and such are enshrined in the Human Rights Code.
Yeah, they just want to complain. They just want to be butts, and that's fine. I was trying to explain some of it to the gentleman, and he's like, but why are they mad about bathrooms? And I'm like, oh, honey. Oh, dear. I don't know where he was during the bathroom argument, or the
He was
SOGI.
probably in the bathroom.
Yeah, right. Or, the GSAs and on and on. And it's going to be interesting, especially as we're creeping into a provincial election. And then a federal following it immediately, and the timing's not quite right. We're in full campaign mode provincially. We're very close to full campaign mode federally. It's not a time to have legislation introduced. And part of the conversation I had yesterday was these things take time. When you're changing the criminal code, all of this, it takes time, and what do you want from us? And it's like, we want it good. We don't want it done now. We want it done right. We want it done well. We want it bulletproof. And so, of course, this is the kind of campaign that will probably end up reaching in. We're not going to get legislation this term, either provincially or federally. It's a next term thing, and that's why these elections are so important, is if the election goes the wrong way, all of our work gets flushed down the toilet, and we got to do it again.
Still on hand, sir.
Yeah.
We don't need another petition, but...
Oh, good. At least we got to hang on.
Well,
I thought that
we'll
went
get
away.
it, well, unless the election gets called before the petition gets presented.
Oh, fantastic. Oh,
So we expect...
I'm going to sleep better tonight.
You're welcome. Maybe because of the bottle of wine.
It's been a week.
The petition closes tomorrow.
No.
And then it has to get approved by the clerk of petitions. From there, it'll be presented in the House of Commons by MP Sherry Benson from Saskatchewan. Thanks again, Sherry, for sponsoring that. I called her office today. Did I tell
Yeah,
that?
you did. I will call her tomorrow.
Talk to her staff and thank them. But yeah, so we were expecting between January 28th, when the House of Commons comes back in session, probably within the first 2 weeks of February, there is when we'll actually get it presented, and then from there we'll have 45 days for the government to respond.
And that's well within the pre-writ. Right?
If an election gets called before then, that'd be ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
But
There won't
federally,
even,
we
yeah,
should
I was going to
clarify.
say, there won't even be a provincial election called that early.
Yeah,
No. So it's going to be interesting, and it's important to remain hopeful. But we also have work to do in that 45-day window. We have to send emails, letters, social media messages, because they actually do keep track of this stuff, to the newly minted, and I forget his name right now, newly minted Minister of Justice, because they'll be the ones making these decisions and the definitions. And we do have an obligation to keep that pressure up, to continue speaking out to our Minister of Parliament and whichever writing you happen to be in. And then, criminal justice, keep yelling at Trudeau, keep yelling at Notley, keep yelling at our local MLAs and all of this.
Yeah, so if you're watching, the email addresses are very easy to find. Go on either the House of Commons website, ourcommons.ca, or ab.gov.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Find your local representatives. Also send it to, like Jen said, Trudeau. Go further. Send it to Cher. Send it. Maxime Bernier thinks he can lead up a new party with running homophobic candidates.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Then email him.
Yep.
Write them. If you prefer snail mail, the address is online too.
Yeah. Well, I think my kids got a bunch of art from the second grade. They turned into greeting cards, so maybe I'll slap some of those around. But it is. It's quick and it's easy, and it's really not, because you can frankly BCC all of it. You can write one basic letter and just BCC every.
Well, you got to do it. You got to do it in like 3 or 4 different emails.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah. Limit of 50 at a time, or.
I think I got it down to like 75.
There you go.
But on another interesting note, and was talking with an MP who's been very supportive of this the other day, and often seems to be forgot about in Canadian politics. Email your senator.
Oh, yeah.
Go to your senator.
Yeah.
Legislation can be initiated in the Senate.
Yeah.
And that's something that nobody really ever talks about. It's a chamber for second thought, but they can start the thought.
I would be curious to see if that is a possibility, what that would end up looking like, because I don't know how much, like, changing the criminal code, or are they making recommendations? I don't understand that process.
But we'll settle. It doesn't,
I
for
don't
us,
care.
we don't
Yeah.
care if it's in the criminal code. We want it
Yeah.
to be a criminal offense.
Yeah. So I'm also, I feel there's a part of me that suspects that that's the most likely outcome in this scenario.
And we still do have time to get that through before the next election,
Absolutely.
potentially.
Yep. Plenty of time. Assuming we don't end up with like some horrible 78-day writ period like last time. I'm just gonna cry. I'll cry.
Yeah.
That was too much.
Regardless, we're going to keep
Yep.
fighting whether or not it gets approved before the next election. If the government changes federally, we'll keep going.
And I think I love what it shows about Lethbridge, what it says about us as a community and who we are as a people.
I saw some comments that said, wow,
Yeah.
Alberta's right behind Ontario for signatures. Maybe they're not as backwards as we thought. And then someone commented under that, they're like, wait, the petition started in Alberta.
Yep. And it shocks people, and there's a lot of conversation, especially within the federal Liberal Party, about how Lethbridge gets forgotten about and we get ignored, and because we're just seen as this little Dust Bowl town in the Bible Belt that's inconsequential to anybody but the Conservatives, and then within the Conservatives, it's only consequential to the far social right Conservatives. And so we get left behind and ignored and misrepresented or underrepresented.
But that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We're here to change people's,
And
we're here to
Lethbridge is
change
doing it.
Canada, and
Yeah.
we're also helping to
And
change
through this
opinions
way.
of Lethbridge.
And we're seeing more and more of it. As it stands right now, well, we've introduced this. We've been pushing for carding bans across the province. We have changed the face of anti-choice forced birth advertising in the country. We are also, in the next federal election, it looks like our 3 primary candidates are all going to be female, 2 of them queer identifying. And this is Lethbridge in 2019, right? This is an amazing time to be living here, and it shows it's the culmination of all of the work of so much of the activists and the community and the amazing people surrounding us. I mean, Nazis showed up on the street corner, and there's some rabble-rouser group, a collective of folks that are ensuring that week after week, hundreds or 100 people show up to stand and block the Nazis from view. And that's, again, I mean, it's embarrassing that in Lethbridge we have Nazis.
Well,
On the
I
street
don't think
corner.
that's on us. They came from somewhere else.
It's true, they did. They came from Winnipeg. But, well, that was the last town they were ran out of. But I think it's amazing that that's Lethbridge now, that we do. We stand so firmly and so solidly. And even when I was talking to a young woman who's from here, left town, has been gone for 8 years, and asking about incidences of hate crimes and violence during Pride. And I'm like, I don't think there's been anything since the crosswalk. I couldn't.
Not, I have an awful memory at times.
No.
As far as I can recall, that was the last major one.
No. And it's nice. It's a good change to see, and it's very exciting to know that we've got this generation of kids growing up in a loving, supportive community that will fight for them, whatever that fight
Well,
looks
it's like I said when the Pride Fest crosswalks got vandalized. The actions of a few don't reflect on Lethbridge.
But it makes it look like it is us, though, right? When that's
Well,
what
it's the silent
stories-
majority,
yeah.
but it's the fact that we had 5,000-6,000 people show up to Pride in the Park
Yeah.
in support and
Oh, yeah.
solidarity.
It was a good year.
Even the flag racing increased in attendance, and I think that was Lethbridge coming forward and saying, no,
Yeah,
this is
just
not
behind
us.
We're not these people. And it's fun. It's exciting to watch.
So what's been your most heartwarming moment throughout this campaign?
I think a lot of it is the shock. Is the shock that, you get these 2 little, poop disturbers here. I don't know what the swearing guidelines are around here.
Try not
All right, we're going to go with poop disturbers. You get 2 poop disturbers here in Lethbridge. They get some, wild harebrained scheme. And 18,000 Canadians were like, no, we agree, this is a problem. That we've got all of these people who just assumed it was something that is historical and past. And as these stories are coming forward, people are realizing that even though it's not a massive problem, it is a very severe problem. And I think it's heartbreaking and exciting at the same time that you get people who are a couple of years out of conversion therapy, and it takes, what were you saying, 7, 8 years or so to recover?
Yeah, a gentleman I've been corresponding with in Ontario said that he's been out for 7 years. He said it takes 6 years psychologically and with the PTSD and other things to properly deal with a scenario like that. I don't know if it's been an official study on conversion therapy, but just like along the PTSD lines and things like that.
And we now have people who are very publicly speaking out about their experiences, and it creates an environment where more people can seek help and support and have these conversations earlier, so maybe it doesn't take that whole amount of time. And it's also really highlighting, just how amazing Lethbridge is, but also how safe it is, that if somebody needs to get out of that, somebody needs an emergency bed, needs whatever supports a person needs coming out of these environments, it's become really, really public and very clear that Lethbridge will take care, right? You reach out and we will support you. And I think that's been, to me, the most stunning thing.
Yeah.
It's just that we care that much. And knowing that that's the community helping to raise my kid, right?
Well, you helped form that
Yeah.
sense of community, right?
It's been brilliant. What about you? What was for you?
Oh, man. That's a tough one. It's been such a blur.
Yeah.
When did we launch this? October?
September 20th, it went live.
Oh, man.
It's been a long 100 and
September,
almost
October,
20 days.
November, December.
Yeah.
It has. I thought you were full of it when you posted
No.
that. I was like, it's only been 90.
No, 119 days when I posted that.
Wow.
No.
No, we've had a good run.
Yeah, it's been quite something. It's exhausting.
It
I
is.
am done.
I'm sure both of our, well, I was going to say
Yeah.
both are, no, I'm sure my Facebook feed is
Oh yeah.
over it.
Oh yeah.
However people keep sharing it, they keep
Yeah.
posting it. I'm glad that we've been able to unite like the queer community and
Yeah.
allies, not just in Lethbridge or Alberta, but across
Around.
Canada. We became friends with Pete Gadgetex.
Yep.
For those of you that are familiar with him, he's a very vocal advocate on banning conversion therapy in BC. He was a key player in getting it banned by Vancouver City Council. We've been making connections in Ontario, connections, allies in the Maritimes. It's just these
5
people.
folks in Nunavut.
Is it up to 5?
It's up to 5. I owe 5 people in Nunavut a beer.
Our beer budget just
Yep.
doubled.
That's right. And then the wildness, I think the most surreal thing was the Lush campaign.
Wow, yeah.
That was, Lush had reached out and made arrangements, and last Friday launched a massive social media campaign and email blasted every single one of their
That's the first corporate, like,
engagement, involvement, public support to any of it. I mean, we've had a lot of small business support. I mean, I think theoretically brewing has single-handedly kept the campaign functional. But Lush was a big one, and the moment, I mean, we watched it go from just over 12,000 to just about 18,000 in a matter of a week. But it was when one of my best friends sent me a screenshot of her nice, quiet Mormon mom in Raymond with her Facebook post that she had signed the Lush petition and wanted other people to sign it too. She didn't know what conversion
coming
therapy
through Lush,
was.
it feels a little
Yeah.
cleaner than coming from
Yeah.
us two.
Somebody else, yeah. But also she
That
just
was
like,
a soap joke.
I didn't get it. She's like, she didn't really know what she was signing. She knew that I was somehow involved in it, and she knew that if Lush supported it, she was going to support it too. And I think that speaks to the really broad spectrum of access they have, but also how this isn't just a queer issue. It's not just our echo chamber on the internet.
That and the CBC. I don't think we would be nearly as far as we were without them
They're
picking
having
this
fun.
up so early on.
Yeah, early and consistently.
And of course, Cora at the Bridge having us
Yep.
on.
Oh
so,
yeah.
Thanks to all of our local media that
They've been
supported
amazing.
us,
Yeah.
covered it.
Although Dave Maybell's was my favorite, just for sassiness alone. That was a good cover. That was a good. But it's been, and I think then the exciting thing is when I'm looking at the numbers, or I'm looking at, okay, we're down to 12 hours, but we're down to 200, and we'll get to 18,000, which is a completely arbitrary goal.
Well, I don't think 18,000 was our goal until we saw what we were at today,
Yeah,
and we're like, we
right.
might as well round up.
Keep on pushing, right? I like a good whole number. But then, in the really quiet moments when all of it's kind of sunk in, and it's a process of understanding what we're doing, is then it's like, where do we go next? What's the next campaign? What are we doing next? And now we have this amazing network, of fantastic, brilliant activists across the country, and that's all this kind of work is building on the work of the people before us, or creating the platform for the next people to grow off of us, and then all of the media contacts and all of that work that's gone into it translates very easily into blood ban. That's a logical step.
Go sign our petition first. It closes
Yeah.
tomorrow morning.
Yeah. We'll
Then
take the blood
Google
ban to
Chris
that.
Farras.
Oh yeah.
He's currently in a lawsuit with Canadian Blood Services. We connected over. Oh, that was the Forbes list of Betcha Shear and Kenny and. You remember that tweet? That one?
Oh yeah. There we go.
And he was named on that. So
That's right.
We messaged and we're like, hey, let's talk.
Yeah.
So we had a phone call. We're working on 2 completely separate campaigns.
But it works together.
It's queer.
Yep.
Queer activism. It's once again, it's not just a queer issue. It's a human rights issue.
Yep.
This is Canada. Let's get this BS out of our legislation.
I'm still man and determined to, bring a gay to donate day. That's, I want to see that happen, and I want to see it happen on a national scale. I really, really do. It hit me again because somebody, the blood group was at the university collecting, signing people up to donate. And I was just looking at it and thinking about how profoundly those numbers could be impacted by that kind of project. That's my dream. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
It'll be fun.
there's still a lot to do in Canada for being 2019.
There is.
But we're only 50 years away from it not being criminal to be queer.
No. And I think that's part of is timing, right? Part of it is we got really lucky with the timing. It's the right attitude, it's the right culture, it's the right temperament, it's the right everything to seek this ban. And then just figuring out what is next, what's the next big thing, what is that fight that we can fight and win and ensure that we're making progress as a country.
I was just thinking about that. You and I are at almost 2 years of working together. We're not quite there, but we're closer to there than not.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, we were campaigning provincially, and then we were already planning to move it federal, and then it was just getting everything in order, getting everything approved. And then, like Jen said, it was the timing was a happy coincidence. The education, or miseducation of Cameron Post came out.
Yep.
Boy Erased. I still have yet to see it.
The same. I was going to take
Last night in the movie mall tonight.
Oh, is it? Oh, wow. We were
yes.
hoping it was tomorrow night because then we could go do the thing, and then I forgot to message you about doing the thing.
No, I saw them post today. It's the last night to see it.
Well, hey, the child will be happy because that was going to be our super fun weekend date. And the gentleman's like, really?
The petition's done, and you're still...
You're going to, can't you come up with something more fun to do? So,
I was talking to the CBC today, and then like, so is it ramping up or ramping down? Well, it'll
we can
pause.
take a few
It'll
days
pause
off.
till January 28th.
Yeah. So I guess we've got a 10-day break. That's
Cheers to
that.
that.
Yeah, right? Wow. I'm definitely...
What are you gonna do?
I don't know. Well, I know what I'm going to do.
I talked to you.
I got it. I'm not talking to you. We got some other stuff. We're still pushing for carding ban situation where the New Democrats had promised to release guidelines about 18 months ago, so there's still work on that. We're expecting some numbers to be coming out of Lethbridge Police reasonably soon. And so we've got a very brilliant student working on that with the lawyer who instigated it.
Okay, and you're doing that through Alfred.
Yeah. So that'll be that. But that one's pretty low maintenance on me. YWCA Women of Distinction nominations are due on the 30th.
This is the second time you brought it up. Why don't you tell everyone
I just have to remind myself that I have to go write 8 packages. So that's going to be fun. So every year the YWCA does a Women of Distinction Awards, and so you nominate women or female identifying people based on categories. So whether it's community activism or health and wellness, sports, education, youth of promise, there's the Lifetime Achievement Award, whatever they call that, Legacy Award, and stuff like that. And so it's a nomination process. You can go onto their website, pick up the nomination packages. You go through, you fill out why you think the nominee should receive the award in the category given, and then they fill out their information, and you drop it off, and there's a process. I don't know what it is, and then eventually they announce who the recipients are. And we've consistently seen really fantastic folks honored here, and there's, I think, a little bit more of an effort to ensure that the activist community is better represented in those nominations, that the people who are doing the boots on the ground, dirty grunt work of activism are being recognized for that work. When you're looking at the people organizing for the anti-hate speech rallies and all of this work that gets done in the community that seems to not really be super recognized, and people aren't always identifiable. Jen Davis is one of my nominees. Yeah, for education, because not only is she an amazing educator at the college, but she has also started a program to support parents of trans and gender nonconforming kids. And I can't think of like what kind of better educator is there out there. Like, that's the kind of person.
And she's doing that through YQL.
Yeah, so
Which YQL is my word.
It's a very small town. So yeah, she definitely, when the nomination list was like, here's what the categories, I was automatic Jen Davis without question. And then Coach Meow from roller derby, because she also, like, she coaches the adults, but the juniors, and it is a completely gender inclusive sport, and we do have trans and gender nonconforming on both the adult and the junior teams.
And then you're not eligible for it?
No, nope. Nope.
You've already won.
I already won. You win once, you never win again, which is a shame because some of the past recipients in other categories have continued in their careers, continued in the work they do, and are definitely deserving of a legacy award. Like when you look at Annalise Van Ors, right? Fantastic.
She won the Pride Fest Legacy
Yep.
Award too. Like, how? What does that say to you about how active and
Yeah.
strong of voices are people
Oh,
that
yeah.
they're
Constantly getting legacy awards. And like Annalise is like, well, of course she did. Right? It's always, of course, because Annalise is amazing. There's a project that's ramping up right now about the queer history of Lethbridge.
We got thumbs up on Annalise.
Oh, nice. Yeah, well, of course, it's Annalise. We all. I love Annalise. She actually happened to email me right before I walked in here.
Okay.
It was about the website and, that kind of thing. But still, I was like, oh, yeah, Annalise, I love her. So there's a project now being done on the queer history in Lethbridge, and so they're collecting the stories of queer Lethbridge and the histories in that, of course. So somebody comes to me, one of the organizers for the project, and is like, so who do I talk to? And it's like Dave Maybell, Annalise Van Ors, every time, all day long. Those are your first two stops.
And Jay Whitehead won the Legacy Award too.
Oh, did he?
So
Oh,
unrelated
nice.
now.
Okay. That was really, really cool to actually get to sit and talk to him. That was the first time him and I have ever actually had a conversation.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
the other day. That
Yeah.
was good.
With us, it's always in passing, like, hey, how's it going? We're one in and one
Come
out.
on in, Derek.
And then also getting to talk to, oh man,
Sorry for starting with that.
No worries at all.
but you made it.
That's
You
good.
made
Yeah,
it.
it's the roads are pretty bad over there now, which I was surprised for.
They're unpleasant.
So, what are we up to?
Well, I was just about also to praise Dione and the amount, because we did the documentary this week, and a part of that involved filming at Club Didi, which is obviously a very big part of
Actually, they're
Lethbridge.
just down the hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna say.
meeting Dione and actually having a conversation with her for the first time, and it was really neat to hear kind of what she goes through as the mom. And, when you have folks coming out and folks transitioning and folks dealing with issues in their family, and seeing her as mom and knowing that she can fill that role and take care of people. Yeah. We're lucky. It's like we're in an amazing city, but I'm also like, what are we up to? I don't know. That's true. Once the numbers are maybe shaking a little bit. Or is it getting worse out there?
It is, yeah, it's pretty bad. But I can't complain because we've had such a calm winter this year, so that it's kind of like it's revenge time for Mother Nature.
Don't say that. It's supposed to be a high of like 9 or 8 or 9 on Saturday.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're looking
Yep.
at the same
Oh, yeah,
forecast.
because
I am.
it's not going to last, but it's still just like it's going to give us like a tough couple of days. That's for sure.
I feel like it gives us all a very valid excuse.
That's right.
Yeah. There'll be some cats and some laundry, and that's not going outside.
I think my partner's trying to drag me out. There's that new glass, whatever.
Yeah,
M. Night
the
Shyamalan.
Shyamalan movie.
Oh.
That's like
On opening
including
Oh.
Unbreakable, Split. Yeah.
That should. I hate opening day for
Oh, yeah.
movies.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
we,
they're never a fun time. And the pre-showings on the Thursday nights are always way busier too. But with this documentary you're talking about,
We
what's
probably
it?
can't say too much about it yet.
Oh, okay,
Shit.
okay.
Yeah.
So this is like
Just
close
did some
stuff.
filming. They've got a
Yeah.
couple more weeks.
yep,
and
just the
then-
conversion therapy.
Okay, okay.
There's been a lot of that, and it's going to be interesting when it all starts
Yeah.
hitting. And then there's some pro-choice rural Alberta access stuff coming out, and I just have nightmares that it's all going to hit on the same day.
It's
What were
possible,
we
though,
at?
you know?
We're getting. See, the thing is we started.
That's why we're
I like.
the PPC couldn't come on, and it's like, well, this petition
Yeah.
closes
Oh,
at
yeah.
7:16 a.m. tomorrow.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Let's
I was
get
gonna
200 or
ask if
300 more
it's today or
signatures.
tomorrow that it was gonna
Yeah,
close, but-
tomorrow.
Nobody's going to be up pushing us at
Yeah.
7 a.m.
We on Monday.
17,841. We need 139 more signatures.
149, 59, 49,
69.
59.
150.
Come on,
math
math.
isn't our strong point. I thought you
What-
said you got better at math than
No,
listed.
I did, but I'm really tired.
And then what hits at 159?
Oh, nothing happened.
Oh,
we just
no, we
hit
just wanna get
18,000.
these
Oh,
numbers.
you just
Yeah,
want to
just a nice round number.
That's right. Okay.
Because the email I sent on Monday to Rachel Herder's office, they asked for like a point. You get half an hour. Let's send me what you want to talk about so we can keep on time, on
Yeah.
track. Like
Yeah.
completely fair. And in it, I was like, optimistically, we might hit 15,000 by Friday.
And I sent her, we got 16,000, an
Yeah.
hour after you sent
Oh,
it.
Yeah.
wow.
So I had to go in and be like, jokes.
We're at
We broke
17,000
16.
now.
It's ridiculous. And so to be this close to 18,000 when at the beginning I was like, I want 10,000 signatures, in the Austin Powers way you say these things. And I'd have to look again, but we're now bumping up. Signature was very, very close at being just behind the real massive lead electoral reform.
I think
that is-
electoral reform is still the most signed one on there, followed by Rachel Harder's gun petition. And there's not that many like large heavy hitters that are of that caliber.
Yeah.
So
5 or
election reform, guns, and marijuana. I think.
Yeah.
And what were their counts, like roughly?
Electoral
Harder's
was
was
30,
yeah.
Harder's was 86.
89.
Oh, okay.
89 was it? Yeah.
Pretty close to those.
Somewhere in those, yeah.
So we don't have too much more time left. Derek, what's your? You've been here like every step of this campaign, watching as initially an outsider, then kind of getting involved a little and such. What are your thoughts on how this has progressed and where do you want to see this go from here?
Yeah, so like one thing I was kind of interested in talking about in regards to like kind of the publicity of it, I guess, too, is that it seems like in a weird way, the closer the deadline's coming now, it's getting more and more like bigger amounts every day of like people signing it, because now it's had enough time to kind of like marinate in like the public eye that like if there was any way to like
Just
extend
increase
this,
the-
like it would definitely like.
Oh, yeah.
But I
It
don't
would-
think it matters how much you extend it. You're going to get that attention because everyone's like, "Oh crap, I have yet to sign this."
Of
Go
course,
do it
right?
now.
So like, and that's where I'm very optimistic in that goal for sure with the 18. I think it's been interesting to watch because I've also seen like how, and you've been sharing this with me, like how it's kind of getting more than just like a national like concern kind of thing. Like people like globally are starting to like ask themselves these questions now too, which is important. And it kind of goes back to like that. If there's any sense of positive Canadian nationalism, it kind of falls back into that like moral leadership, if that makes sense. So like hopefully this could be an opportunity for like Canada to sort of like go back to that, where it's like, hey, we're making the right choices, and then other countries can kind of look at Canada and be like, okay, this is like the country that we should reflect ourselves on, if that makes sense. So it's kind of cool to see that like political dimension to it as well. At the core of it, though, I just hope like something good comes out of it, where we can see this like stop.
Yeah.
I guess like at like the very like
Lowest denominator.
like yeah, exactly. Like, and it's just it's
In
one
the
of those
name of
things.
love.
Like, yeah.
Stop
Totally,
or put
essentially,
up with
like,
us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll get legislation just by being annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So yeah, it's
Squeaky
definitely.
wheels.
But that's just the nature of bureaucracy, and then more specifically like Canadian
Politics.
bureaucracy, right? Like it tends to be one of those countries in a positive way where we have a lot of red tape, which prevents like dangerous changes sometimes, but then it hurts the positive change, right? So like,
But I think I said we'd rather it be done right than done fast. And if we have to, if it's going to take some time, then let it. Just know that it'll hope
Yeah,
that
we'll
we need
keep
to see
on
the
you.
action, right? Your brother can vouch for my mini tantrum last night that was basically just like stop talking about it and do it. And so as long as that action is started, I think we're in a good place.
after this though, are we going to hear more on the blood ban too? Is that
Well,
something?
we'll see
Yeah,
what's next.
yeah.
Jen and I
Interesting.
mentioned that.
Yeah.
So I've been talking with Chris
Yep.
for us in BC, who's actually currently in a lawsuit with Canadian Blood Services.
Okay.
And then if he loses that, he's going to the Supreme Court. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen what he needs,
What
support
resources
service,
and support.
resources, whether we need to start another one of these petitions. But
Which we're getting good at this.
yeah,
I have the
yeah,
account
yeah,
set
yeah,
up.
it's a piece of cake. And blessedly,
Wonder what Benson's up to next.
he's like, I'm not going to run again if you people don't leave me alone.
Yeah, we can't burn out our
No,
resources.
we got to pick another one. Yeah, okay,
Hey, Randy.
Yeah, it's got to do something. But we can now select how long we want that petition open. And I really like the option of maybe not having to go 120 days next time.
Oh man, it's been a long 120 days.
Yeah.
I found more gray hairs, and I think you blamed all yours on me.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, I looked in the mirror today, and I'm like, alrighty, okay, then that's how we live our lives now.
Their documentary shoot, they put a camera in front of my face, and he's like, "If you don't mind, I'm gonna put makeup under your eyes." I was like, "Oh man."
Yep.
I mean, I know that it's just a camera thing, but do I really look that bad?
I guess to talk about the blood ban as well. The reason for that is that there's like sort of the unfair measure that they're assuming like gay men are like contracting diseases, but then during the blood, like when you donate blood, they test your blood anyways, right? So like, who's to say that like a straight individual might not have like that same like disease, and then there's already systems in place to like weed out that.
But
like,
they say it's mainly
contaminant,
discriminatory to gay men because lesbians and
Well, and that's what I
bisexual
mean,
women
like-
don't deal with that,
Yeah.
and then you get into the area where you're dealing with trans individuals, where for example, someone identifies as male and their partner's male, and then
it just seems like it's based off of like
The policy
Like-
made sense in 1983.
exactly right.
But now, when you start looking at the increase in HIV rates, it is not men who have sex with men who have the highest rates
Yeah.
or the highest growth in rates. And one would also hope, hope that over the course of the last, what are we looking at now, 35 years,
I was gonna say,
that science might have gotten a little bit better
Yes.
about identifying it in the bloodstream, or like being able to screen for it and this and that. And so it's clinging onto that idea that being a man who has sex with man, being gay is wrong, and that it's dirty and filthy, and that it's a gay disease. It made sense in 1983. We can't be too judgmental about what went on then, but now we sure can. It is dumb. And just cutting it back to, what is it now, 3 months, 6 months? It's insulting.
they just cut it back. But
yeah,
with
'cause I
the
thought it
ban,
used to be
Yeah.
I thought it used to be a year.
Yeah.
it was a year, and then they
Like-
cut it back to either 6
Yeah.
or 3.
One of the two. And
We don't remember because it's
Yeah.
not important.
It
It's
doesn't
still
matter.
discriminatory.
And plus, just out of curiosity, can you not lie on those and have no consequences?
Technically, then you get into legal issues about lying about it. So if they
But then-
prove it, and
But then even then, in this circumstance, how is that question relevant at all? So you know what I mean? So like if somebody were to lie and then it were to come back to them, that question I would hope would fail as like as a measure, right,
Yeah.
against that individual. Like it just seems like that would be
I don't know. I don't think we've had any cases of that. But
the individual you were mentioning. What's the case? They're just suing
they won't let them
for-
donate.
So that's where okay.
Yeah.
Because that's frustrating too when always Canadian Blood Services is calling you saying we're in
Yeah.
desperate need for donations, and it's like, well, open up your
There's one way
population.
to get them
Take
to stop
blood from
calling
them.
real fast.
Yeah.
let me.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. But I think there's a lot of things like that, like, if we assume the majority of people are, like, straight cisgender people, they're not going to learn or care about these issues necessarily because they're not going to be faced with it. So, like, when somebody goes to donate blood and they come across that question, they're going to quickly,
Yeah,
like,
just
look
overlook
past it. They're not going to criticize why it's on the test.
Well, and I haven't gotten a copy of it yet. There's a long backstory, but I'm working on it. Apparently about 6 or 8 months ago here in Lethbridge Canadian Blood Services, when you were donating, they had a questionnaire. Would you be more likely, less likely, or same likely to donate blood if it were opened up to men who have sex with men? And
Oh,
so that
really?
was
Okay.
actually being surveyed by blood donors 6 or 8 months ago. So I'm trying to track down somebody who has a copy of
Yeah.
that or took a screenshot or has some kind of proof of that to have that conversation.
Just go into donate.
I'm not eligible.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so.
Derek, go in and try to donate.
Well, and that's where, like, I feel real bad because, like, as somebody who has literally no barriers with blood, I have not given it.
Go take a picture for Janet a
Yeah,
test.
yeah, yeah.
Why do we keep
I-
calling it a test?
I know, right? Well, and
I
I do.
will-
My friend does donate regularly and promise next time she runs across it. But I also have a friend who works there. I just haven't been able to connect with that person and to ask very pointed questions.
So why, like, is that question a positive thing or is it a negative?
Oh, it's a great thing
Like,
because
it depends
it's
on how it's answered.
That's where I was like curious because
Yeah.
like if you put it in like a like a more like right-leaning community, and
Yeah.
people say like,
And it
well,
also depends
I'm
if
not
it's
gonna-
just here or if
Yeah,
we're
if
doing
it's
this everywhere.
countrywide, if that's going to change the way.
I would assume there'd be some sort of.
I mean,
Federal standards.
then again, the
Yeah.
people who would be more likely to donate if it was a lot louder
Allowed
in
to
there.
donate.
Well,
Well, and
that-
can you have popular
That's a good point.
opinion formulating blood laws?
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
Like that's really messed
That
up.
that is very wrong.
Yeah.
That's where I was like, even in a positive way, if like let's say
Yeah.
the survey comes back where an astronomical amount of people are more willing to
Mhm.
donate, if that was allowed, it's still ridiculous that that's how they did it.
Blood drives are
You know
not
what I mean?
popularity
Like,
contests.
yeah, exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
With that said, we should probably start to wrap it up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It always happens, right? Like,
Did you have any closing
No,
thoughts
I'm
other than
just-
sign the damn
yeah,
petition?
sign the petition, share it. Like we're down to the last just over 12 hours of signatures, and then you can look forward to us never doing this again on this topic.
And that
On
may
this
not
topic.
necessarily be true.
Probably never asking you to sign a conversion therapy ban petition again, but
Hopefully.
it is, and we're extremely grateful for all of the support in the community and across the country and in the media.
If
and
we have to do it again,
internationally.
we're just going to get tents and put them on Parliament Hill.
Yeah, right. The weather is very lovely in the summer. It's not, but we can pretend. Yeah. But thank you so much for having me on again.
Well, thanks for
It's
coming on
nice.
again.
It's good to see you. I needed to
like the
talk to you
last
anyway. Yeah. Well.
Did you have any thoughts in closing?
No, it's just again like it's really cool to see all this happening, and it was neat to see Alberta
Mhm.
like sign so much in this too. But again, that's probably because of like that's where it started, right?
Yeah.
So like, but it's cool to see Alberta doing something progressive in that
Yes.
way.
It's because of Jen's Facebook presence.
Yeah, exactly.
Well-
what about yourself? Any closing
I
remarks for you?
talked for the last hour.
Yeah, that's true. I guess.
I think I've got it out. Well, thanks for tuning in. This is YQL Express, and yeah, thanks Jesse for putting up with us again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers, Mr. Coffee Cup.